Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 23rd of January and we will be dealing with two very important topics which are in news. The first is draft UGC regulations. UGC stands for University Grants Commission, a body which is formed by this law, that is University Grants Commission Act 1956, means it is a statutory body. Now it has released some draft regulations with respect to the standards for appointment of the vice chancellors of the universities. And in this, the state governments, various state governments like Tamil Nadu have come in response and they are stating that the center is violating the federal principles of the constitution. Why? Because the state universities which are under the state governments have the prerogative or the power to set standards for appointment of vice chancellors, not the central government as per the UGC Act. Now these are draft regulations, not yet finalized, but yes, this controversy has erupted. So let's see how it will be tackled. The next is IMEC corridor and its implications. IMEC here stands for India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. This corridor was conceptualized and announced in the G20 summit, which was hosted by India in 2022. It is a multimodal corridor which will be constructed between India and Europe via Middle East. Now, since October 7, 2023, when Hamas attacked Israel, this corridor went on the back burner. But with the ceasefire deal signed, hostages being returned by Hamas, things, getting towards normal, we can hope that IMEC will now come from concept stage to the implementation stage. It is much needed. So this is what we are going to cover. We'll see all the implications of IMEC and all in this particular topic. Then we will be dealing with the MCQs based on these two topics and then discussing the answers to the MCQs of yesterday. First topic, that is draft UGC regulations. The University Grants Commission is a statutory body which has been established by a law, UGC Act 1956. Now, UGC Grants Commission recently proposed an amendment to its Regulation 2010 that deals with selection and appointment of vice chancellors of or in the universities. Chancellors are governors, but vice chancellors are appointed. Now, there has to be some changes in the selection and appointment of vice chancellors. This was demanded by UGC, and with respect to this is these draft UGC regulations which have come out. The key change in this proposal is to allow professionals from fields outside academia, such as industry, public administration, and public policy, to be considered for the post of VC. Earlier, they were not. Who were? We will see. Draft regulation has faced strong opposition, especially from non-BJP led states. So, in the Hindu, there was this poster of the Tamil Nadu chief minister protesting against it, who argued that it violates the federal structure of India and interferes with the state powers over university administration. The issue raises important legal and constitutional questions about the powers of central and state governments in managing universities. This is what we need to look into. Now, the details under the UGC regulations 2010, which were already there, how were the vice chancellors selected? The vice chancellors had to be people from academics and 10 years of experience in as a professor that person should be having. That was there mentioned in the UGC regulation 2010. Now there is a proposed amendment where people from industry, administration, public administration and public policy can be chosen as vice chancellors, and this is being challenged basically. Now these professionals would also need to have 10 years of experience in their respective fields to qualify. 10 years of experience stands the same, but in their respective fields, not as a professor. This is what the draft regulation means. Now this broadens the pool of candidates for position of VC, which has traditionally been limited to academic professionals. Objections from the state government, on what grounds they are objecting? So see, education is a concurrent list subject. Both center and states are allowed to formulate laws, policies with respect to this. And there are universities which are central government universities, and there are universities which are state government universities. The selection of the vice chancellors for the state government universities, obviously state governments will be doing that. But this Draft regulation is silent whether this criteria is for central government universities or for the state government universities also. State government universities are also funded by UGC. They are overseen by UGC. So that is why probably the state governments are objecting on this. So several state governments, particularly those led by parties other than the central ruling party, have raised strong objections. They say that this is a violation of federalism because they feel that they will not be having the powers to appoint the VCs if this regulation comes into place. Now, state legislatures have the authority to govern their own university, means state universities. They believe the central government should not impose regulations on matters like the selection of vice chancellors. It is a big question on the state autonomy. Critics argue that state governments, not the central UGC, should have the right to determine the qualifications and selection process for the vice chancellors. And that is why, there's a big question on federalism, which is there mentioned as a basic feature in the Indian Constitution. Now, what is there in the Act, UGC Act 1956, with respect to appointment and or with respect to the powers of UGC? Now, UGC was created with this Act, UGC Act 1956. Now, under this Act, the main responsibilities of UGC are coordinating and promoting university education across India, setting academic standards for teaching, research, and examinations in universities, allocating funds to universities for their development. Now, the Act also grants UGC the authority to create regulations specially related to faculty qualifications, not VC, standards of teaching and research. Now, with respect to these, standards can be set. However, the UGC Act does not mention anything about the selection or appointment of vice chancellors. It was there in the 2010 regulations. Those regulations were brought as per the Act, but in the bare Act, it is not been mentioned about the appointment of vice chancellors. Now, this raises questions about whether the UGC has the authority to regulate vice chancellor appointments or not. The limits of UGC powers. The most important issue whether UGC has the legal authority to regulate selection and appointment of vice chancellors, as this is not addressed in the UGC Act. This is also being highlighted by the state governments. This Act mainly deals with academic standards, not university administration. It empowers the UGC to act or to set standards for teaching, research, and examinations, but it does not give UGC the power to interfere with the way universities are run or how their leadership is selected. So, there are these kind of limitations. But yes, as per the regulations, they were there and there have been changes or there have been proposed changes in the regulations. The selection of vice chancellors has traditionally been decided by the state laws or university statutes, which are established by state legislatures or universities governing bodies itself. So, generally state universities, the state government has taken care of. Therefore, UGC's attempt to regulate vice chancellor appointment may be considered beyond its legal powers, as it falls outside the scope of the UGC Act. But they are forgetting the regulations. Those were also made by or made under or as per the UGC Act. And in those regulations in 2010, the criteria was set for appointment of vice chancellors. Now, legal precedents and court rulings. So, there have been two major cases which we will be discussing. One is Suresh Patil Khede versus Chancellor University of Maharashtra. Now, here in this case, the Bombay High Court said that the qualification and appointment methods for vice chancellors do not directly affect academic standards. And therefore, the court held that UGC's regulations cannot interfere with the state laws. Court made it clear that UGC regulations cannot override state laws, which are meant for, uh, regulating these state universities. The University of Maharashtra is basically a state government's university. Then next is Kalyani Mathivanan versus KV Jayaraj 2015. Supreme Court upheld the idea that UGC regulations are binding on universities that receive UGC funding. So, this is there. However, the court also clarified that these regulations are advisory for state-run universities. These are not binding on the state-run universities. These are advisory. So, as per this judgment, the state governments do not need to worry in this case. These might be not for them, for the state universities. Court ruling allows the state universities to follow their own laws and decide their own selection processes for vice chancellors, even though they can consider UGC guidelines. They can if they want, but it is not binding on the state universities. This is what the judgment over here is in 2015. Kalyani Mathivanan versus KV Jayaraj. Constitutional framework and federalism. So this is the point in this is the question over here, basically whether it is being violated or not. So India's constitution establishes a federal structure where there is a union, state governments, and the third tier is also there. Education is in the concurrent list, means both center and state can make laws on this. However, union's power to make laws in a concurrent subject does not automatically mean that it can override state laws unless it explicitly states it. Means on a particular subject, if center and the state both have made laws, that is obviously there in the concurrent list, then it should be mentioned in the central law that it is going to override any law made by the state governments with respect to this specific subject. Article 254 of the Constitution deals with conflicts between central and state laws. If a state law conflicts with a central law, the state law is void to the extent of the conflict. Means state law becomes zero or null to the extent of the conflict. This does not apply to the subordinate legislation like UGC regulations. So UGC regulation is a subordinate legislation. Subordinate means it is not a legislation, it is not a law, it is a regulation which is formed under that law or as per that law. So UGC regulation does not fall under this article 254. Since UGC regulations are subordinate, meaning they are not laws passed by the parliament, they cannot override state laws unless specifically allowed by the parliament. So it has to be mentioned that these regulations also will be overriding any state laws made with respect made with this particular topic. So this is also another viewpoint over here. Now, can UGC regulations violate state laws? So, as per this basic understanding that it is a subordinate legislation, it cannot. But yes, you know, let's see the cases. Suresh Patil Khede case 2011 made it clear that UGC regulations are not superior to state laws. The regulations can't change how vice chancellors are selected by state universities, as those laws are separate from UGC guidelines. In the Kalyani Mathivanan case 2015, Supreme Court ruled that UGC regulations are binding on universities but only for central universities, not for state universities. For state universities, these regulations are recommendatory in nature or advisory in nature. They are not binding on them. So what is the fuss all about? State governments should know this or these technicalities. Okay. And since it has not been mentioned explicitly by UGC, those draft UGC regulations that this is only for the central universities, not for the state universities, then there is this fuss. So either the central government should mention it explicitly, but I don't think so. It will mention it explicitly because they are advisory for state governments. If the central government mentions it that this is not for the state universities, only for the central universities. So if any state university is willing to abide by it, then they will not be able to abide by this new changes. Probably that is why the central government has not mentioned anything. Okay. Now the next, that is IMEC corridor and its implications. IMEC here stands for India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. Now US President Joe Biden has recently commented that the ceasefire deal which has been done in that region between Hamas and Israel will definitely give a push to the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. So this was announced in the G20 summit, which was hosted by India 2022. It will start from Mumbai through sea, it will go to UAE, then road and rail routes UAE to Saudi Arabia, from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and then Israel. Then it will, go to either Greece and then Italy. It will go ahead. Okay. This is how it is going to connect. This is going to be a game changer because this is going to bypass the very congested Suez Canal. This is here, the Suez Canal. So, this is going to bypass that. So, let's see what happens. What is IMEC? It is a large scale multimodal, means multiple modes are there. Ocean connectivity or ocean trade, and then, road connectivity is there. So ports will be there, railways will be there, roads will be there, sea routes, pipelines, all will be laid. It aims to improve trade, connectivity and cooperation among these regions. Project was officially announced during G20 summit in New Delhi, September 9, 2023. And it was signed by India, United States, Saudi Arabia, UAE, France, Germany, Italy and the European Union. So this was significant. Strategic importance of IMEC, the global trade and connectivity. IMEC aims to significantly enhance trade routes between Asia, the Middle East, or we call it West Asia, and Europe, making trade faster, cheaper, and more efficient. It is obviously being considered as an alternative to China's One Belt, One Road, which is now known as Belt and Road Initiative. But yes, BRI focuses on Chinese interest. IMEC provides a platform for regional cooperation, infrastructure development, and a more balanced trade network. From wherever it is going, it is giving ownership to those projects to them, to those countries. Now, India's growing role. For India, this project is a key step in positioning itself as a global leader in trade and infrastructure development. And it will, entail government investments as well, plus private investment. Like for example, in Israel, Haifa port is going to be part of it, and Haifa port developed by Mr. Radani. Now, what are the key features of this particular project? Rail and shipping routes will be there. Since it is multimodal, so definitely it has to be there. Cross-border railways connecting India to the Arabian Gulf and then linking Gulf to Europe. Shipping route will connect the Indian ports of Mumbai and Mundra to UAE, with rail links extending to Israel's Haifa port and onwards to Greece and Europe. Again, Greece from Israel, ocean connectivity will be there. Infrastructure, energy, this will include hydrogen gas pipelines, electricity grids, enhance energy security across the regions. It will also include, pipelines coming from Middle East to India, carrying oil. Digital connectivity project also plans to lay fiber optic cables to boost digital infrastructure and improve communications. Now, this is something which is, on which the world is relying right now. So we need resilience over here also in digital connectivity. Efficiency, corridor aims to make the trade process more cost effective and reliable, improving regional supply chains and boosting economic activities in the participating countries. What are going to be the benefits of this particular project? So, first of all, economic cooperation will increase between India, West Asian or Middle Eastern countries and European countries. Definitely, when there will be so much work, job creation and economic growth will happen. We're also looking at sustainability because more efficient transport options like pipelines and all greenhouse gas emissions have to be reduced. These are the focus as well. It is not only we have to increase economic prosperity, connectivity, so we will do it at any cost. No, we are being responsible over here. We are keeping in mind sustainability. Then secure trade routes. We have to establish these. This is something which every country in the world is wanting, whether big, small, or medium sized. Everyone wants their trade routes to be ultra secure. They want supply chains to be resilient as possible, and we are aiming to do that. Now, what is the role of India in IMEC? India is basically at the heart of IMEC. Initiative was announced by India in the G20 summit, which is hosted by India. We can say that I the starting point of IMEC is India, and definitely it makes India a major player in this. We are not pretty sure as of now that what would be India's economic contributions in this particular project. But yes, you know, uh, India is to be there at the central focus point in this particular project. Strengthen regional ties. Definitely, it will strengthen India's ties with Middle East and Europe. Both are very crucial for India. Challenges and roadblocks in this, we should know this as well. Geopolitical tension. This was a geopolitical tension only between Israel and Hamas, which, delayed this project so much. Since October 2023, no one was talking about IMEC. Israel was busy about, you know, tackling the situation over there. And the entire region was in, I would say, a frizzy. So, such kind of projects definitely take a back seat during this or these types of geopolitical tensions. So this is a challenge. China's response. China's Belt and Road Initiative remains a major challenge for this. It is a very huge project as compared to IMEC. Chinese government has already invested in several infrastructure projects in Asia and Africa, and its reaction to IMEC may influence the global response to the project. And talking about the regional cooperation, success of IMEC will depend on continued collaboration and cooperation, especially among the Sunni, the Arab countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, with Jews, that is Israel. They have been in conflict with each other since long. So that regional cooperation definitely will be key. IMEC's broader implications, if I talk about, it definitely will shape the future global trade because we are bypassing Suez Canal. 12% of the container traffic passes through this particular canal, and if this alternate trade route is created, then this might revive that particular region's connectivity with the world. Then it is going to have strategic influence as well because it is going to be counter to China's Belt and Road Initiative. It will increase not only India's presence, which is a competitor of China, but yes, Europe's presence also. It will increase Middle East. The influence of India and other countries will increase in the Middle East as well. So it has strategic influence. Alternative growth model by focusing on regional collaboration and sustainable infrastructure. IMAC offers alternative to China's BRI. So this is these are the broader implications of this mega infrastructure project. Now, MCQs based on these topics. Consider the following statements with respect to the UGC Act 1956 and mark the correct one. First is UGC Act empowers the UGC to set standards for appointments. UGC Act makes UGC responsible for allocating funds to universities for their development. Only one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Second, which of these is not mentioned in the UGC Act 1956? Setting standards for research, financing, appointment of vice chancellor, or all of the above are mentioned in the Act. Third, which of these countries is not part of the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor? Jordan, Israel, UK, Italy. Fourth, consider the following statements and mark the correct one. IMEC is a multimodal transport corridor connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe. IMEC was announced under India's G20 leadership in 2022. Only one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Now, answers to yesterday's MCQs. Which of the following is a criteria for an entity to be labeled as a startup in India? Should be a private entity? Yes. It can be a limited liability partnership, a partnership fund, firm, or a private entity, private limited. Okay. So this is there. Turnover less than 100 crore? Yes, this is also true. Valuation less than $1 billion? No, this is not a criteria. There are many startups which have valuation more than $1 billion, and those startups are called as unicorn startups. So this is wrong. Company's age should be minimum 10 years. No, it should be maximum 10 years. It should not be beyond 10 years. So this is also wrong. So hence 1 and 2. So you have to take care of these play of words. UPSC does that many a times. Second, consider the following statements about fund of funds for startups and mark the correct one. The fund of funds for startup is managed by SEBI. No, it is not managed by SEBI. It is managed by SIDBI. So this fund of funds for startups gives funds to AIFs, alternate investment funds. These are regulated by SEBI. These are also not managed by SEBI, regulated by SEBI. And they, invest in startups. Fund of funds is managed by SIDBI. So first statement is wrong. The fund of fund for startups was inaugurated in 2016 with a corpus of 10,000 crore. This is true. So B is going to be the correct option over here. Third, which organization releases the World Employment and Social Outlook report? It was very simple. It is ILO only. It is not ILO and World Bank. Neither it is World Economic Forum. It is ILO. Very simple. Then next is consider the following statements and mark the correct one. World Economic Forum is headquartered in Davos. No, it is not headquartered in Davos. It is headquartered in Calgary. अक्षय यहाँ पे 1 मिनट देखना। ये वाली स्लाइड फिर से। Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. The first statement is the World Economic Forum is headquartered in Davos. We were talking about that annual meeting of World Economic Forum which happens in Davos in Switzerland, but we did not mention anything that it was mentioned in headquartered in Davos or something like that. And actually this statement is wrong. It is headquartered in Cologne. This is also in Switzerland, but it is not headquartered in Davos. Second is World Economic Forum is an NGO funded by European companies. No, it is not only funded by European companies, or it is funded by those companies who have that annual turnover of more than $5 billion, and those companies can be from anywhere. So this statement also is wrong. So neither 1 nor 2 is going to be the correct option over here. And with this, we have come to an end of today's session. I will be seeing you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. I'm not repeating it today. Namaste. Jai Hind.